Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to present part 2 of the development of the occlusion. And the content include mixed dentition period, that includes first, inter and the second transitional period, self-correcting anomalies of the mixed dentition and the permanent dentition period. Starting with the mixed dentition period, it is the period during which both primary and the permanent teeth are present in the mouth, which is known as mixed dentition period. This phase begins at the sixth year of age with the eruption of the first permanent molar and lasts till about the 12 years of age. Now, what is successional teeth and what is accessional teeth? The successional teeth is the permanent teeth erupting in the place of the previous deciduous teeth, and the accessional teeth are those erupting posteriorly to the primary teeth are called the accessional teeth, that include molars. Now, the mixed dentition period divided into three phases, that is first, inter and second transitional period. The first transitional period consists of the two phases that include emergence of the first permanent molar and the incisor transition. The second transition period consists of the emergence of the cuspid, bicuspid and the second permanent molar and establishment of the occlusion. Now, starting with the first transitional period that include emergence of the first permanent molar, the location and the relation of this first permanent molar, it depends on the distal surface of the upper and the lower second deciduous molar, and the anterior posterior relation between the two opposing first molar after the eruption is depend on their previously occupied space within the jaw, sagittal relation between the maxilla and mandible, and the occlusal relationship that is established by the con and the funnel mechanism, in which upper palatal cusp act as a con which sliding into the lower occlusal fossa, that is act as a funnel. Now, if the deciduous molar is in flush terminal plane, then the erupting permanent molar will also be in the same plane. So for this to change in the class 1 relationship, the molar has to move 2 to 3 forward in direction. So this is accomplished by either early mesial shift, late mesial shift, or the exchange of the incisor. The mandibular molars are the first erupt in the to first erupt at the 6 years of age, and their position and the relation depend on the relation of the second deciduous molar as they are guided into the dental arch by the distal surface of this teeth. So if there is a distal step present, so then the erupting permanent molar will erupt into the class 2 relation. But if the further growth occur, there is a more utilization of the space occur, and it is lead to the end on molar relationship. If there is a flush terminal plane, then it will convert it into the end on or the class 1 molar relationship. Is there if there is a if second deciduous molar is in the mesial step terminal plane, and so the erupting permanent molar will directly end up into the class 1 relationship. But if the further growth occur and the utilization of the space is occur, so this relation change to the class 3. Now, terminal plane prediction. In the flush terminal plane, about 56% converted into the class 1 and 44% converted into class 2. And the mesial step is, if it is less than 2 mm, then 80% of this converted into class 1. Or if it is 2 mm, then 20% of it converted into class 3, and distal step converted into class 2. Now, study by Bisra et al. He evaluated the changes in the molar relationship from the primary dentition stage to the permanent dentition stage among the 121 subjects, and followed for average period of 8 years between the age of 5 to 13 years. And the finding from this study indicate that all the cases that started with the distal step in the primary dentition stage develop into class 2 molar relationship in the permanent dentition stage. In cases with the mesial step in the primary dentition stage, The finding indicate that if greater the mesial step, the greater the probability for the molar relationship to the develop into the class 1 or the class 2 in this study. And the result shows that in the cases where 1 mesial step was there, so 76% cases become class 1 molar relationship, 23% class 2 molar relationship, and 1% class 3 relationship. If mesial step of 2 or more is there, then 68% became class 1 molar relationship, 13% class 2, and the 19% class 3 relationship. And of the total group, that include all the group in which 61.6% of the cases ended up as a class 1 molar relationship, 34.3 were class 2, and 4.1 were class 3 molar relationship. Now, one article on the factor associated with the dental anxiety in the Brazilian children during the first transitional period of the mixed dentition, and they concluded that the prevalence of the dental anxiety was high, although children attending private school and those who had visited the dentist before had a lower prevalence of the dental anxiety in the first transitional period of the mixed dentition. Now, assessment of the occlusal characteristics of the primary dentition among Lebanese preschool children, a baseline cross-sectional study. And in this study, the result shows that a flush terminal plane molar relationship present in a 62%, class 1 canine relationship in 84%, and space upper and the lower arches in 98%, overjet of 2 present in 49.1%, and overbite of 50%. And it was found that the flush terminal plane molar relationship, class 1 canine relationship, and spacing in the both the arches increase overbite and overjet predominated. Now, starting with the early mesial shift, in this the eruptive forces of the first permanent molar pushes the deciduous teeth forward in the arch, and that utilizes the primate space that are present, and thereby it establishes the class 1 molar relationship. In the late mesial shift, many children lack of the primate spaces, and they may have a non-space dentition, and thus erupting permanent molar are not able to establish the class 1 relation even as they erupt. So in this cases, the molar establish class 1 relationship by drifting mesially and utilizing the leeway space after exfoliation of the deciduous molar. Now, the exchange of the incisor. The deciduous incisor are replaced by the permanent incisor during this phase, and the period of transition is from the 6.5 to 8.5 years. Now, what is incisor liability? So, the permanent incisor that erupt are larger in size as compared to the primary counterpart. So, it require more space for their alignment. So difference between the space available and space required is called incisor liability, and it is about 7 in the maxillary arch and the 5 in the mandibular arch. Now, some factor that help in the alignment of the incisor by gaining the space, that include utilization of the interdental spacing that is present in the primary incisors, which is average 4 in the maxillary arch and 3 in the mandibular arch. Now, increase in the intercanine arch width. Now, what is intercanine arch width? It is the distance between the tip of the canine of the one side of the canine to the another side of the canine, and this increases as the child grow. In the male, it is 6 for the maxilla and 4 for the mandible, and in female, it is 4.5 in maxilla and 4 in the mandible. The As the growth of the jaws occur, there will be also increase in the intercanine arch length. Now, change in the interincisal angulation. The angle between the maxillary and the mandibular incisor is about 150 in the permanent dentition, whereas it is about 123 in the permanent dentition, which allow more proclination and gaining space for the incisor alignment. which is known as this increases the arch perimeter. Now, evaluation of the arch width among class 1 malocclusion, class 2 division 1, class 2 division 2 and class 3 malocclusion in the central Indian population by Achilles Gurjar et al. In this study, the result shows that the maxillary intercanine width, maxillary intermolar width, and maxillary alveolar width it is more in the class 1 malocclusion individual than the other, and it is about 35.19, 53.84, and 59.01 mm respectively. In case of in mandibular intercanine width, mandibular intermolar width, and mandibular alveolar width is more in the class 3 individual that is 27.89, 53.42, and 56.81 mm respectively. So they concluded that there was a significant difference among all the malocclusion group, but highest maxillary intercanine, intermolar, and alveolar width was found in the class 1 malocclusion, and class 2 division 1 showed the least, while highest mandibular intercanine, intermolar, and alveolar width was found in class 3 malocclusion group, and least intercanine width was found in the class 2 division 2, and least intermolar and alveolar width was found in the class 2 division 1 malocclusion. Now the intertransitional period. In this period, the maxillary and the mandibular arches consist of the permanent incisor and the permanent molar that sandwich the deciduous canine and the molar, and this is the phase that lasts for about 1.5 years and it is relatively stable. And during this phase, only few changes in the morphology of the deciduous teeth are seen because they undergo atresion. And some of the features of these stages include root formation of the emerged incisor and the molar continue along with the concomitant increase in the alveolar height, and resorption of the root of the deciduous canine and the molar, any asymmetry in the emergence and the corresponding differences in the height level or the crown length between the right and left side teeth are also made up, and occlusal and interproximal wear of the deciduous teeth causes occlusal morphology to approach that of plane. Now starting with the second transitional period, this is the place which is characterized by the replacement of the deciduous molar and the canine by the premolar and the permanent cuspid, and also the eruption of the maxillary lateral incisor and the canine. And this takes place around 9 to 11 years of age, and it is very critical for the alignment of the erupting permanent teeth. Now, replacement of the deciduous molar and the canine. So in that, the combined mesiodistal width of the permanent canine and the premolar is less than that of the deciduous canine and the molar, and so this extra space is called the leeway space of Nance, and it is utilized by the mandibular molar to establish the class 1 relationship through the late mesial shift. It is about 1.8 mm in the maxillary arch and 3.4 mm in the mandibular arch. Now, what is E space? So, the dimension of the deciduous second molar is more than that of the second premolar that is erupting, and this extra space is known as E space. Now, one article by Anthony A. et al., leeway space and the resolution of the crowding in the mixed dentition, and they found that the leeway space provide adequate space to resolve crowding that is present in the mixed dentition in the majority of the individual. This space can be maintained by preserving the arch length with the lingual arch as the primary teeth begin to exfoliate, unless the conditions such as premature loss of the primary canine that require earlier intervention. A lip bumper can also be inserted after the eruption of the first premolar to preserve the arch length. Now, the eruption of the maxillary canine. The other event of the significance in the second transition period is the eruption of the maxillary lateral incisors and the canine. This is a self-correcting malocclusion which is seen around 8 to 11 years of age or during the eruption of the canine, and it was first described by H. Broadbent in 1937. It is seen around 8 to 9 year and seen as a midline diastema, which is commonly seen in the upper arch, which is usually misinterpreted by the parents as a malocclusion. And the typical features of this include flaring of the lateral incisor and the maxillary midline diastema. Now, how what is broadband phenomenon? How it occurs? So, as the permanent maxillary canine erupt, they displace the root of the maxillary lateral incisor mesially. So, this force then transmitted to the central incisor, and the roots of the central incisor also displaced mesially, and this resultant forces causes the distal diversion of the crown in the opposite direction, and which leading to the midline spacing between them. This is known as ugly duckling stage or the broadband phenomenon. And this condition is correct itself after the canine erupts, which is known as broadband phenomenon. The term ugly duckling stage indicates the unaesthetic appearance of the child during this stage. The first photograph shows the clinical appearance of the ugly duckling stage with the midline diastema because of this stage, and this is the radiographic appearance of the ugly duckling stage. This is the condition which correct itself after the canine have erupted. The canine after eruption applied pressure on the crowns of the incisor, which caused them to shift back to the original position, and no orthodontic treatment should be attempted at this stage as there is danger of deflecting the canine from its normal path of eruption. Now, a localization of the first permanent molar in the lateral cephalometric and panoramic radiograph from the early mixed dentition to the early permanent dentition by Hung Hu Sai et al. Changes in the position and the mesodistal angulation of the maxillary and the mandibular first permanent molar from the early mixed dentition to the early permanent dentition were measured on the panoramic radiograph and compared with the value measured on the lateral cephalometric radiograph. And they found that the maxillary and mandibular first permanent molar were upright gradually and drifted mesially and vertically, and that the changes in the mesodistal angulation were clearly on the panoramic radiograph in comparison to the cephalometric radiograph. Now, the self-correcting anomalies of the mixed dentition that include anterior deep bite, which is usually seen in the deciduous dentition, but as the vertical growth of the mandible occur, it reduces to the normal size. Now, and on molar relationship, during the growth and the development of the jaws, the end on molar relationship converted into the class 1 molar relationship, which is self-correcting. Now, mandibular and anterior crowding. This is because of the arch length or the tooth size discrepancy that is seen. But as the growth occur, there will be an increase. There will be an increase in the intercanine arch width or the length, which provide space to accommodate the incisor and all the teeth. Now, and the ugly duckling stage. This is the stage in which, as the canine erupt, the midline diastema resolve. Now, starting with the permanent dentition, this period is marked by the eruption of the four permanent second molars. Some changes that can be seen in the permanent dentition include horizontal overbite decreases, dental arch becomes shorter, vertical overbite decreases up to the age of 18 year by about 0.5 mm, and the overjet decreases by 0.7 mm between the 12 to 20 years of age. Now, the sequence of eruption in the maxilla and mandible. The sequence of eruption in maxilla, it include first eruption of the maxillary first molar, then incisors, both central incisor and the lateral incisor, eruption of the premolar, canine, second premolar, and the second molar, or it can be 6, 1, 2, 4, 5, 3, and 7. In the mandible, the first tooth erupt is the permanent first molar, followed by central and the lateral incisor, first premolar, second premolar, canine, and then the second molar. And or 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, that include first permanent molar, central and the lateral incisor, canine, first premolar, second premolar, and the second molar. Now, the chronology of the permanent dentition. Uh, the central and the lateral incisor. The first evidence of the calcification in the central and the lateral incisor is seen at the 3 to 4 months or 10 to 12 months respectively, and the root completed at 10 and 11 years respectively. For the canine, the first evidence of calcification seen at the 4 to 5 month, and the root completed at the 13 to 15 years. For the first and the second premolar, the first evidence of calcification is seen at about 1.5 year and 2.5 year respectively, and root completed at 12 to 13 and 12 to 14 year respectively. The first evidence of calcification in the first, second, and the third molar seen at birth, 2 to 3 year and 7 to 9 year respectively, and the root completed at the 9 to 10, 4 to 16, and 18 to 25 year respectively. For lower teeth, central, lateral, and the canine, first evidence of calcification seen at around 3 to 4 months and 4 to 5 months respectively for central, lateral, and the canine, and the root completed at 9, 10, and 12 to 14 years of age respectively. For the first premolar and second premolar, the first evidence of calcification seen at about 1.5 to 2 year and about 2.5 year in the first and the second premolar, and the root completed in about 12 to 13 or 13 to 14 year respectively. Similar for first, second, and the third molar, the first evidence of calcification seen at birth in the first molar, 2.5 to 3 year, and 8 to 10 year in the second and the third molar, and the root completed at 9 to 10, 14 to 15, and 18 to 25 year respectively. Now, starting with the keys of occlusion, the permanent dentition after establishing itself is governed by various factors, and these were underlined as a Andrews 6 keys of occlusion. Andrews in 1970 put forward this key to occlusion after studying 120 patients with the ideal occlusion, and he hypothesized that the presence of the following features is necessary for the ideal occlusion, that include molar interarch relationship, mesiodistal crown angulation, labiolingual crown inclination, absence of the rotation, tight contacts, curve of spee, and the Bolton's discrepancy. Now, starting with the molar interarch relationship, in which the distal surface of the distobuccal cusp of the upper first molar made contact and occluded with the mesial surface of the mesiobuccal cusp of the lower second molar, and the mesiobuccal cusp of the upper first molar fell within the groove between the mesial and the middle cusp of the lower first permanent molar. Now, mesiodistal crown angulation. Crown angulation is refers to angulation of the long axis of the crown, which is not an angulation of the long axis of the entire teeth, and the difference of between them for incisor is about 5 degrees. So it is not a angulation of the whole long axis of the tooth, but it is the angulation of the crown only. The long axis of the crown for all the teeth except molar judged to be mid-developmental ridge, that is more prominent and present on the most vertical portion of the labial or the buccal surface of the crown, that is present on the anterior teeth. And for the molar, the long axis of the molar crown is identified by dominant vertical groove that is present on the buccal surface of the crown. Now, mesiodistal root angulation of permanent teeth in the children with the mixed dentition and the normal occlusion. And in this, the result shows that the angulation of the permanent maxillary first molar was close to the vertical. The mandibular molar presented approximately 25 degrees of the distal angulation. The maxillary canine were the most distally angulated teeth, whereas the permanent mandibular canine were the vertically positioned. And the evaluation of the anterior maxillary area shows that vertical position of the permanent lateral incisor and the central incisor with the slight angulation, whereas the permanent mandibular incisor tended to mesial radicular convergence. Now, crown inclination, which refers to labiolingual or the buccolingual inclination of the long axis of the entire tooth, not just crown. The cervical area of the crown, if is lingually placed, if it is lingually placed, then it is known as positive crown inclination. Or if it is buccally placed, that is seen in the mandibular incisor, which is known as negative crown inclination. So maxillary incisors have a positive crown inclination, and the mandibular incisor have a negative, and all the posterior teeth have a negative crown inclination. Now, the absence of the rotation. The rotated teeth will occupy more space, so hence normal occlusion should be free from the rotation. The rotated molar and premolar occupy more space in the dental arch than the normal, and rotated incisor may occupy less space than those correctly aligned and the rotated canine, which also adversely affect the aesthetics and may lead to the occlusal interferences. Now, the tight contact. The permanent dentition should have a close contact to optimize space, and in the absence of abnormalities such as tooth size discrepancy, contact point should be tight. Now, curve of Spee. The occlusal plane should be flat with the curve of Spee not more than 1.5 mm, and there is a natural tendency for the curve of Spee to deepen with time. As in the figure, the first figure shows deep curve of Spee that result in the more confined area for the upper teeth and create spillage of the upper teeth progressively mesially and distally. The second figure shows the flat plane of occlusion, which is more receptive to the normal occlusion. And the third figure shows the reverse curve of Spee that result in the excessive room for the upper teeth. Now, one article by Stephen D. et al., Development of the Curve of Spee, and the result shows that in the deciduous dentition, the curve of Spee is minimal, and according to age it increases, at the mean age of 4.05 year, the depth of the curve of Spee is about 0.24 mm. At the mean age of the 5.27, the depth of the curve of Spee was 0.25 mm, and with the changes in the transitional dentition that corresponding to the eruption of the mandibular permanent first molar and the central incisor, at the mean age of 6.91 year, the depth of the curve of Spee was 1.32 mm. The curve of Spee then remains essentially unchanged until the eruption of the second molar. Then after the mean age of 12.38 year, it is about 2.17 mm, and in the adults in dentition, at the mean age of 16.21 year, the depth of the curve of Spee was 1.98 mm. In the adult dentition, the mean age of 26.98 year, the curve remains unchanged with the mean maximum depth of the 2.02 mm. So they concluded that no significant differences in the curve of Spee development were found between either of the right and left side of the mandibular arches or sexes, and the radiographic measurement of the tooth confirmed that greatest increase in the curve of Spee occur as a mandibular permanent incisor, first molar, or the second molar erupt above the pre-existing occlusal plane. These are the references. Thank you.